Welcome to the Juice Radio Talk Show. 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 Reality TV, church reviews. Let's talk happy love and marriage lifestyle. Come and talk with us. Come and share with us. Come and laugh with us. Come on and pray with us.
Regina Clovis, special guest. You should be following your lead. Bless. Subscribe on YouTube. Listen on podcasts. We live on IG and Facebook. This episode is sponsored by Truth and Triumph Ministries.
Afternoon, good evening. This is Executive Pastor Tawana Grant, and we are so excited to be with you on today. Thank you for joining Money Monday right here on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. If you are new to our show on today, please go ahead and like and share and subscribe. We're so excited. Today, we're going back. We've spent a whole month and a half talking about visionary leadership, how to enable you as the brand of your organization, the brand of your business, entrepreneur, business owners, ministry leaders. How do you level set personally so that you lead well, so that you show up well in all of your different faculties, so that whatever you're tasked and called to do, that you do so with the spirit of ability that's been given unto you. And so we spent a considerable amount of time just talking about that. Hey out there. Oh, they're so glad to see everybody today. And so we are back now. We're getting back straight into the dialogue about money management. And so today we're going to be talking about cash flow management. This is really the lifeblood of your business. Cash coming in, cash going out. And so what we want to do is make sure that we operate in our businesses in the gap. What do you mean? So that we have more coming in, more staying in the business, so that we have growth. And so we want to talk about that today. So again, we want to ask you to like, share, and subscribe on the Juice Radio and Talk Show. Make sure you like the Money Monday series as we continue to enable you in your space. And so wherever God has gifted you to operate, wherever you have been called to operate, there's an opportunity for you there so that you can learn about how to manage money. It is key. There's some key principles that when you own a business, you have to understand. And cash flow management is one of them. Why is it so important? Why is it so important? I know we talked about cash flow management before, but why do we keep doing it again? Because when we understand cash flow effectively, it is crucial to being able to manage our flow of intake. It helps the business to run more smoothly. That's what we want to do. We want to have a smooth operating business so that we can have opportunity to grow. We have liquidity in our business, and it allows us to be able to expand and look at things from a different perspective. And then oftentimes when you have a crashed budget, you are constrained with finances, with operating expenses. It is difficult to be able to go to your next level. It is difficult to be able to operate in such a capacity that the business starts to operate for your good. Initially, and most oftentimes, we'll start off a business. You might have to be the one who's doing a lot of the sowing into the services, right? Getting your initial funding to get it started. But what we want to say is now we really have to think of it from a business perspective. We really have to think about it from the perspective that we want to grow for longevity. So one, it is important to understand cash flow. It is important for we understand the cash inflows and the outflows. Know this, it is a normal process to have some debt. It's a normal process to have expenses. It is a normal process to have to be able to pour into the business, right? But there's a way that you do so that you are tracking where your money is going. You are tracking the movement from sales and investment and the movement from your expenses and your debt payments so that you understand where you are. And then how do you want to go about creating some cash flow? How do we now, because we've had the opportunity to start our business, how do we now take this opportunity that has been presented unto us? How do I now take it and move it so that it benefits me and my organization, right? So you want to understand cash flow and cash flow management. And then how do we improve it? So how do I create more cash flow? I love it. One of our investment clubs, one of our leaders used to always say, think of new opportunities to create new wealth. And so how do you think of new streams of opportunity, even in your business? How do you expand it so that it becomes more valuable to your client base? So much so that you start to expand and create new clients. And then we also want to talk about improving your cash flow, meaning what are some practical tips for incentivizing early payments, incentivizing managing your inventory, make sure that you're having just in time so that you're not having a lot of inventory just sitting and waiting. That is money already spent from your organization or debt that is waiting to be paid. How do I make sure that I am moving things in and out right on time so that I am benefiting from it in all of my lanes and all of my capacities? I want to make sure that I am doing a great job as the leader of my organization. And so that's why we're talking to you. We're talking to you today. Money management, Money Mondays is just for you so that you can understand how imperative it is to get wisdom and to get understanding. And so as we go into, let's talk about cash flow. What are we talking about? The importance of cash flow. One of the things, the importance of cash flow is because it is the movement of money in and out of your business. You cannot control what you do not track. Unless you need to write that down. You need to make that a note. You cannot control what you are not tracking. And so you cannot manage it unless you have control of it. And so that's why it's so important that you recognize that cash flow management is crucial to your stability of your business, but also the advancement of your business, right? And so when you're managing it effectively, it ensures that the company can, one, cover all of its obligations. You can meet your obligations, such as your payrolls and paying bills and operational costs. And so that is so important. You don't want to have people who are expecting you to make sure that you carry through on your word of payment. You have signed a contract, or maybe you have employees who are now working for you. You have committed then to pay them what they are due. And so it is imperative for us as business owners, as leaders, that we are managing, we are maintaining and clarifying and monitoring our cash flow in and out, one, so that we can understand where we are. It is difficult to understand where you're going if you don't know where you are right now. And I see that a lot of times people are thinking, and it's a good thing to do, to be positive. We want to be positive, but because you are a visionary leader, you know how to operate in truth, operate in SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, related, relative, and time box. You've learned how to operate your business with SMART goals, which means you also need to prepare when things don't go as planned. We want to always shoot for the moon. We always want to go for what is best, but we are sensitive enough to know that we also have to be aware that things happen. We have to be sensitive to know that we also have to have a contingency plan, that we have to be sensitive enough to know that we can't stretch ourselves too far, that we don't have room to recover. And so when we're taking risk, we have to take a calculated risk. We have to take a measurable risk. There's nothing wrong with risk. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. There's a measure of risk in faith. And so there's nothing wrong with having risk, but you have to take a measured risk. You have to take an applicable risk, and especially when you have a lot to lose. When your business depends on your decisions, you have to make those decisions from a thinking process. So that you think them all the way through, not about just what the good could happen from it, right? Which is what we want to do. We want to think positive. We want to think from what could happen with this business. Where could I go with it? But we also want to think, okay, now what are my SWOT opportunities? What are my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, my threats? What are those things that I need to know? Because when you're thinking positive, you're really thinking about your strengths and your opportunities. But SWOT includes also your weakness and your threats. So you have to balance that out so that you're considering both sides of the scale. You never want to be out of balance when you're operating. And cash flow is the same thing. Never want to overcommit and do things that you cannot afford to do. You want to make sure that you are associating your ability to do it, right, with what the cost may come. So importance of cash flow, again, is being able to be aware at all times of where your money movement is happening, what's coming in, what's going out. Next, you also want to do cash flow intake and outflows, right? And so what the teaching is about that is when you are managing a business, you have money coming in from sales, from loans, investments, multiple streams of income, from those who are gifting, from those who are giving if you're in ministry. And because those are coming in, those funds are coming in. But then you also have funds that are going out. So we can't get excited. Which I see this a lot of times. We can't get so excited about the front end that is coming in the door that we forget that you've got stuff, requirements that have to go back out the door. You have some things that you have to send back out. Your expenses, your taxes. Oh my goodness. A lot of people get caught with taxes for the business. So making sure that you have stage funding appropriately to pay your taxes, to make sure that you stay in good condition, even from those obligations that you have that are not specifically related to what's coming in and out of the business for business expenses, but overall operating expense, which is your taxes. And sometimes recertifications or reinitiating some of the things that you have to have, your license, your permits. Those things cost money. And so you want to make sure that you have set aside funding so that you can stay in business legitimately. We know we have a lot of people that oftentimes are operating and they're not legitimate, that you're doing things with integrity. That's what we talked about. We spent a whole month and a half talking about us as a leader. How do we operate with integrity? How do we operate with good character? How do we choose how we show up? And so one of those things too is making sure that we have all of our business acumen up to speed so that we can operate well throughout the year. And even when it's time to make sure for our taxes that we're ready. So that really comes. So I will always say, as you prepare to take care of this, list out all of those things that while they may not be something you have to address right now, they're coming for the future. And perhaps even as you budget, even as you stage for what is coming, you're able to put out a piece of the funding, right? You're able to sit it out so that others can make sure that we're ready and prepared. Those on your team and those that are helping you in administration or in your finances, they can make sure that that particular funding is set aside and ready. And you don't always have to have the whole lump just sitting there, but iteratively every quarter, put what you need in there for taxes every quarter and distribute it out. Thank you so much for those of you who are joining. Lady Virgo, yes, CC, thank you for joining. We appreciate you on today. And so again, we want to make sure that we are managing our cash inflows and our cash outflows. How do we create more cash forecast? How do we create cash flow forecast? Meaning, what do we do to predict future cash coming into our business so that we can plan ahead and avoid cash shortages? And this is what happens a lot of times in running the business, right? We have a lot in the beginning, but we're not managing, monitoring. We're not making the adjustments, or we're not pivoting quick enough to become aware. I'm guilty. I've had that at times when I was like, I should have moved that last week, or maybe I should have pivoted on that 2 weeks ago. And so what we have to do is make sure that we're watching and monitoring so that when we see these triggers or we see these flares that come up or we notice patterns. Oh, that is so good. Notice the patterns in how your business operates. And then over time, like now, certain things I recognize, this is our slow season of the year. This is where I need to make sure I've stored up so that when we get to this time of the year, we're ready and prepared to still carry forward in our operating expenses while we know our cash flow may not be as heavy in this particular season. And so those are some of the things that you might learn as you go along with your business, but definitely it is necessary for you to grow in that space, necessary for you to understand that these are some applicable tools and techniques so that you can win in every area of your life, every area. We want to win in every area of our life. And so one of the things I do want to encourage you today, so that as you think about how do I improve cash flow? How do I improve cash flow? There are a lot of efforts that you can do to improve cash flow. One of them, most specifically, is making sure that you, one, are taking care of your current clients. Taking care of your current clients means sometimes having outreach. It means touching base. It means following up to see how you can better serve them. How can you become more intricate in their end-to-end servicing? How can I assist you in what you're doing? And in so turn, I benefit in my business. So a lot of times we have a good client base, but we're not using them to all the benefit that we could. We're not using them to the benefit that we can add additional services, which in turns give us additional revenue. So that we can forecast well, that we're going to have more coming in. We've talked about it before with improving our cash flow and forecasting. How can I reinvest in the business? How can I reinvest? How can I take what I've already gained and then reinvest in the business in the right place so that I get further returns on it? Sometimes we get funding and we reinvest in things that are passionate to us, but we don't get a big bang for the buck. We reinvest back into things that can oftentimes lead us to a more joyful satisfaction within ourselves, but don't lead us to joyful satisfaction at the bottom line. And so you have to look at it. Is this this particular passion? Is this something that will give you the biggest bang for your bucks? When you are spending money, when you're devising and articulating and thinking about and imagining where you're going to go, when you're vision casting and when you're forecasting cash flow, we need to be thinking about, where do I need to put this funding that will give me the biggest return? Right? Where do I need to fund? What do I need to enable? Where do I need to support? I want the biggest return for the minimal amount of effort. So when you're doing that, it allows you to consider where you need the most strength given. Because a lot of times we're operating in spaces and we're doing a lot, but we're not doing a lot on the right things. And therefore, we're not seeing the momentum that we would or we hope and expected. And so a lot of times we will then we'll start to feel as if we're not being successful. But I think in turn, what we have to do is reconsider where we're putting all our effort. Everything is not a priority. Some things are needed, but there's some things that are necessary. And so part of being a leader is that we have to evaluate so that we're putting all of our strength, we're putting everything that we need in the right place, so that we are able to move forward and push our business forward so that we can be a visionary, so that we can see the outlook on what we're doing. The next thing we want to talk about is how do we reduce cash flow gaps? So every business, there's oftentimes some gaps that we might find, even in our own businesses, some gaps in our performance, some gaps in our cash flow and our outflows that just doesn't leave the business with enough funding. So there are some ways that we can do to manage our cash flow. One is start building up an emergency fund. We have talked about that before. We need to start building up emergency funds, right? When we do have residual cash flow, don't just willfully spend it. Don't just throw it away and cast it away. Let's make sure that we're spending it in a way that is going to bring us benefit, that is going to help our business grow, that is going to take us to our very next, right? We want to make sure that we are edifying, that we are building up, that we are strengthening. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing so that at the right time, everything comes together. And that's when success meets, right? We said that before. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. They both go hand in hand. So there's preparation that has to happen in order for us to get to success in anything. Commitment. It takes commitment to start something, but it takes consistency to finish it. You have to be consistent in order to get to the end, in order to finish strong. And so one of those things that we want to talk about is making a cushion so that we have something to carry us forward in the gap. So sometimes, I know this is hard to think, sometimes it's not the time to do everything. So you really have to think about, what do you need to be doing in your business right now to stay solvent? What do you need in your business right now to stay beneficial to your clients, to service on your commitment, and then to expand? And then look at the things that you can stop doing. Because I know we always talk about, let's add on. Oh, we even talk about that personally. Let's add on until we are stretched ourselves thin. But I want to talk about for a minute, what can you take away? What can you take away? What can you in your business take away an expense Therefore, you will have residual income that you can now appropriate to something else. What can you take away that is not adding value? What can you take away even from your own personal schedule, so that maybe you can go out and meet new clients, so that you can go out and pass out those cards, so that you can make the phone calls and let others know, hey, I appreciate your business and I want to improve and I want to increase it. How can I be a benefit to you? Sometimes we can't do that outreach because we're spending our time on things that are not taking us forward. Right? And so we want to be able to operate from that perspective, so that in turn we're doing those things that are advancing us. And so I want to encourage you today that there's always going to be an amount of gap. Don't think that's strange. Don't think that's strange that you'll go through these seasons in life where there might be some gaps that you have to fill in. Here's where your critical thinking, here's where your visionary thinking comes in, where you have to consider saving the ship, saving the business. What do I need in order to make sure the business is solvent and moving forward? Because there's sometimes, as we look at, especially if you're operating in a seasonal business, you're operating one where you have a significant, I'm not just talking about just regular up and down with the economy and the finances. I'm talking about seasonal, where you know traditionally there's going to be a low time and then there's going to be a peak time. Then there's going to be a low and a peak. This is where you're going to have to start considering, what do I need to do in my low seasons so that I'm solvent enough, that I stay in business, that I retain what I need, so that I can quickly build back up and move forward when my high season returns. When my peak season returns, I'm able to operate at a capacity of excellence without anyone else being aware. None of my clients are aware that I've gone through that dip. Sometimes you go through a dip in business, but no one else has to be aware of that, because you've operated at such a level of excellence that it has been seamless to your clients. It's been seamless to your organization. And maybe only your core team is aware of the things that you've had to flex on and the changes that you've had to make. And that is a sign of success when dealing with gaps, and they're always going to be gaps. Even in your own home, and there'll be times when things are not quite going where you had expected, and you have to give and you have to take. There has to be some concessions, and you have to be able to do the right thing at the right time. So I really want to encourage you in that you have to be able to understand, how do I manage these ebb and flows of business? How do I feel in? One of those ways, again, is emergency cash flow, making sure that you create a cushion. And then another way, again, we talked about, is being able to understand the seasonal flows of your business, so that you can be aware and anticipate having to make adjustments. That's a plan. I know sometimes we feel like the contingency plan is as a fallback. No, the contingency plan is still a running operating plan for your business. You might have to trigger your contingency plan for a period of time and then go back straight to normal business when things go back. So it is a part of the whole end-to-end process in running a business. It is not considered an extension. It is considered a part of the process of the business. Contingency, planning for those occasions or what-if scenarios. And then lastly, want to encourage you to look at some tools that can help you, tools that can assist you with your cash flow management. What are some of those tools? What are some of those tools to remember? One of those is making sure that we introduce ourselves to software. I believe in this: work smarter, not harder. Some of us have limited time and limited capacity, and why not allow some tool or some software who does that with perfection, with ease, to operate on your behalf? It may take you a little time to put information in the beginning, but in the end, you're going to end up much better. In the end, you're going to see yourself much more successful. In the end, you're going to see things being much easier for you, less taxing on your allocation, on your energy, on your strength, because you're using some software and some tools that help you do better, enabling ourselves to better manage our cash flow. We talked about it before, some dashboards, some of those software that give you immediate notices when things are shifting in your landscape of your finances, shifting in your landscape of your inventory, shifting in the landscape of your business, your incoming and your outgoing. It gives you those kind of simplified tracking mechanisms. It gives you some of those forecasting. It helps you to forecast, helps you pull all that information together, helps you with your reporting. It helps to validate. This is what we want to do. We want to get to the point where we make informed decisions, not ones off of whims, not ones off of emotions, but ones that are data-led, data-based. And so when we work smarter with tools, we have the ability with these resources to make better informed decisions so that we're not knee-jerking or moving on things with limited information. Having a software tool or a resource helps us be able to broaden our understanding, helps us to be able to see further than we can when we just look at our purview. The next thing, we want to make sure that when we use technology, it also helps us with mistakes. Sometimes we can make manual mistakes. Sometimes it can be human intervention. Sometimes it can be human error. And so sometimes with leveraging these software and resources, it streamlines that whole portion of that so that our financial process is much smoother and a lot easier for us to manage. So some of the things that we can look at as a business owner, even today, some of the things that we can look at is QuickBooks, Xero, and Wave. And we can also look at different suites that might fit your business needs so that you get accustomed to tracking your cash flow every day. Again, you cannot control what you're not managing. You cannot manage what you can't control. And so you need to be having awareness of where you are, awareness of what's happening so that you can make sure you are evaluating appropriately, that you're looking at it and you're threading all the ports of your business where money is coming in and money is going out. Sometimes we don't even realize money is going out the back door. Sometimes we don't even realize when we're not tracking close enough. And so that's why we want to make it an important part of us as a business owner, as a business leader, to make sure that we are evaluating not just what's coming in, but what is going out. We might can save a lot on the back end so that you have more to appropriate to what you need to do in the business. And so today, I know we've been talking about cash money management. It is the lifeblood of your business. It is the way in which you are able to move forward, take the business to another level because you understand what cash flow management is. We want to encourage you to get some tools in place so that it can help you at the end of the day to work smarter, not harder. We talked about making sure that we have some SMART goals, that they're specific, measurable, actionable, relatable. Make sure that they are time boxed. So it has to be related to what you want to get done. And then we also talk about SWOT, knowing your SWOT as a part of your business. What is that? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A lot of times we always stick on our strengths and our opportunities. But no, we also need to understand that we got some weaknesses and we have some threats to our businesses. So it's so important that we look at the whole threading of all four when we are doing our analysis, that we look at it from end to end so that we as visionaries, as ministry leaders, those who are owning our own business, entrepreneurs, are getting ready so that even as we get ready for our race, that we are equipped to run the race well. And so we want to encourage you today to continue to watch us every Monday. On Mondays, as we continue in learning, at lunchtime learning, we continue to give information to strengthen you in your awareness of how to run your business well, but also strengthen you as a leader to recognize that others are going through the similar process and there's a shared information that we can glean from one another. Thank you for joining us again. Want to encourage you again to go onto the Juice Radio and Talk Show to like and share, and also to subscribe. We appreciate those of you who've already joined us. Keep joining us every Monday at 12 noon for Monday Lunch Learning. Peace and blessings to you on today. Pastor Grant.